Get ready to reclaim your life, discover inspiring stories, practical tools, and the path to true happiness. This is Reclaim Your Life with Irina. Let's begin the journey. Hello and welcome to another episode of Reclaim Your Life with Irina. Today is a solo episode and we're talking about how to stop being a victim, or in other words, the power of self-blame on your life. Everything that happens in a life happens for a reason. And at the moment of it happening, we might not realize why is it happening. And especially if it is a negative event that is taking place, we're going to start asking, why me? What did I do to deserve this? I'm a good person. So we might not realize why is it happening and what is happening, but everything that happens in our life is a result of our choices that we made, is a result of the decisions that we made, is a result of the thoughts we were thinking that created that result. Because we live in this universe, fortunately for us, the results of our thoughts are not instantaneous, so there is a little bit of a delay. Otherwise, it would be an utter chaos as we learn to navigate life and as we learn to study the consequences of the words and the thoughts we are thinking that produce the reality that we are creating. So everything that happens was a result of what we were thinking at the moment, at the time before. And of course, when you are in the thick of it, when you're in the midst of it, it is difficult to see that, because you feel all alone. You feel like life is unfair. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? How I was asking myself, why me? When I became a single parent, never in a million years did I imagine a life of that. I didn't have the construct of that in my head. Yet the thoughts and actions that led to what happened created that result, for better or for worse. So how do you stop being a victim? It doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice. It takes time, because the time it took for you to assume that persona, to assume the role of being a victim, it took time. So now in order to undo that, it will take time again, as we need to create different kind of thoughts. And the way we react to life, the way we approach our experience, if we look at every situation that happened, and it always, you cannot predict the future, but you can always kind of dot the lines in the past and see what thoughts and what activities, what experiences have led to this particular experience that you are in now. If we examine a life, if we approach a life as a lesson in every experience, what is a positive lesson in an experience that appears negative and feels bad? In fact, there is this great line that I learned from, I forgot his name, but the point is, what is the presently good here that I currently cannot see? If we approach every situation in our life in that sense, no matter how dire the circumstances, no matter how difficult it is, to see what is a positive experience, what can I learn here that is positive, that I can then take with myself in the future and make a different choice, different decision next time. What is presently good here that I currently cannot see? What can you then gather from that experience? And sometimes we are dealt difficult cards. You know, sometimes you have to let go of something that is good to allow for something great to come in. On outside, it might appear that the world is ending, or on the inside. But we are never dealt more than we can handle. When we come into this world, we make certain, because it's an experience we come here to have, right? Because we are infinite souls. And we decide then, what do we want to learn when we come and experience? And when we have this human experience, what did we want to learn? And maybe we wanted to learn kindness, or maybe we wanted to learn unconditional love, or actually we know that already, because that's what it's based upon, everything. But we created the tasks for ourselves, and so we are then dealt the kind of family where we end up, the kind of experiences and the kind of people we meet in our life that come on our path, then show us, allow us to learn that lesson. Unfortunately, if everything is always kind of beautiful and happy and amazing, we don't get to appreciate that. It's only when you experience the other side, the dark side, the painful side, that you can appreciate then the opposite of that. Because this polarity, this resistance that we create, like without the cold, you wouldn't appreciate the hot. How often do you wonder, like in the middle of summer or in the middle of winter when it's freezing cold, you wish for the warmer days to come sooner, you wish for the sun to shine. And on the opposite side, when it is in the middle of the summer and it's so scorching hot, you can't wait for the winter or for the fall to come. You are always the positive, and what else do they say? It's always better where we are not, because we find stuff to complain about in anywhere we are. But I invite you to choose different. I invite you to look at your life as an experience that you are having, as a lesson that you are learning. What kind of lesson did you want to learn from this experience? And maybe it is a string of experiences, a string of events that had occurred. And you kept, another thing is also, until you learn the lesson, you keep on getting the same kind of experience into your life, whether it is meeting the same kind of toxic partner because you haven't learned the lesson with the first one, whether it is getting health conditions because you are not listening to your body, you're not paying attention to the signals the body is sending. So you keep on getting the same signal until push comes to shove, you haven't been listening, and something terrible happens. Some kind of, it's like we need to be shook, how you call it, shaken up, and turn ourselves completely upside down before we start to listen and pay attention. Otherwise, we dismiss everything. We dismiss the warning bells in our heads when we get into the negative kind of toxic kind of relationships. This is nothing to worry about. We sweep these things under the rug. But what happens as a result of that, of sweeping things under the rug, of not speaking how you're feeling, of not, if something especially goes against your values, a year later, you can turn around, look at yourself, and you're not going to recognize who you are anymore, because you're going to start asking, how did I allow this to unfold? How did I allow this to happen? I'm not that person. But guess what happened? Little bit at the time, you were kind of shaving away the things that made you who you are, and you were becoming little by little like someone else. And then you don't recognize yourself anymore. You have an identity crisis. You no longer know who you are. Same with the body signals. You have a little bit of ache or a little bit of pain, or maybe you were working really hard and your body needed rest and you didn't listen. You kept on pushing yourself until everything fell apart. It's because we don't listen to the warning signs. They're always there. And then we are presented with some kind of a dire circumstance that finally causes us to ask the question, where is our life going? And another point about you not being how to stop being a victim. If you look at your life, it is not very long. You might think it is, but it is not. There is a tombstone with 2 dates, date of birth and date of death, and you have this little dash in between. And what happens when you're being a victim for long periods of time? You're shortening your duration of the life that you can enjoy, the life that you can create, a different kind of life. I'm not negating the fact that a negative event has taken place something devastating had happened, and of course you need to allow time for grief. But how much time do you allow? How much time do you want to suck away your energy to the negative event that took place instead of creating something different? Because you cannot go back and change the past. The past is in the past. What had happened, what had occurred, it took place. And no amount of you mulling over it, thinking about it, talking about it is going to change what has already taken place. In fact, the more you talk about it, the more you're creating this kind of same kind of reality for yourself, the more it's going to continue. It's like you, this masochist who really, or what is the other word? You're eating poison and hoping for somebody else to get sick. That's what you're essentially doing the longer you continue being a victim. Because the same parts of your brain light up when you think about a negative event that took place 5 seconds ago, a year ago, a decade ago. Still the same parts of your brain light up, and you keep recreating the experience for yourself of the same reality. Why do that? When you have a choice, you have this powerful tool, a choice, free choice. What are you choosing every moment of every day? Who are you being? It is all about being and not so much doing. It is the being. I mean, doing is important, but first you gotta be somebody. You gotta be not a victim. The longer you stay being a victim, the longer it's going to continue, the longer you have negative events affecting your life. I invite you to jot down if there was an event that happened in your life that was negative. I invite you to sit down with yourself, pour yourself a cup of tea, and write down positive lessons from that experience. Of course, negatives are gonna scream out because ego is so loud and clear. Meanwhile, we do have that little inner voice. If you choose to listen, if you choose to slow down, that's why I talked about practicing the power of being present in my prior episodes. You can check out. When you are present, you can actually slow down. You can hear that inner voice. Because when you are not present, all you're gonna hear is your ego screaming, "Why am I being not treated right?" So I invite you to sit down and jot down what were the positive lessons you learned from that experience. What can you take from the experience? And then when you see a different experience that come into your life, what kind of choices will you make differently from versus what you made before that allow you to kind of cement the lesson and then move forward? We are continuously evolving, and the events that happen in a life and the problems that we call a problem, that they continue to evolve. Something that is so hot for you right now, 6 months down the line, a year down the line, you're just gonna laugh at it and be like, why did I even thought it was a problem? That's nothing. And you're gonna deal a different kind of problem, a different kind of challenge in the future. But only if you grow, only if you continue to learn the lessons. What are the lessons? What are we coming here into this earth school? What are we learning? So the shorter, I mean, yes, take time for analysis and evaluation, but don't let one negative event or even a series of negative events affect your well-being, affect your life. Because what happens when you're staying a victim? You're not only affecting your emotional state, your physical state get affected as well, because the longer you hold on to negative emotions of pain and suffering and unfairness, the longer you hold on to them, since they have nowhere to go, they have no release point, you may manifest a disease. And then your physical health is affected, not just your emotional and mental, but it goes down to that level. Because guess what I was saying in the beginning, you weren't listening to the bells that were ringing in your head. And so the problem starts to escalate. so that you finally pay attention. You pay attention at where your life is going. You pay attention at the thoughts you are thinking. You pay attention at the foods you are eating, until something even more greater happens. So don't do that to yourself. Stop yourself right there. Of course, it doesn't happen overnight, and it's creating the kind of habits that sustain your overall well-being, that allow you then to let go of the victimhood. Because we are creatures of habit, and every day when we wake up, you probably get on the same kind of, you get out of bed, you step on the same foot, you go brush your teeth with the same hand, and then you go have a cup of coffee or cup of tea from the same cup with exactly the same time you do that. And then you, let's say, drive to work or go around your day. 95% of the actions and the thoughts and the things we are doing are the same repetitive thoughts of yesterday. So we got to create new levels of habits, because the habits that allowed you to become a victim clearly are not working. I mean, look where it's going. You got to create new sets of habits. And this podcast is here to, I'm sharing tools, tips, and techniques and habits to create that kind of sustainable level of living that allow you then to create a different kind of outcome. Because the habits, as we are a creature of habits, either create one way or the other way. And clearly what was happening before that created the victimhood are not sustainable. As I was coming out of my own victimhood, because I also thought, why me? How am I going to continue suddenly becoming a single parent and not knowing what's next step to take and where do I go? I started with my physical health, started taking walks, started introducing something totally different I have never done before. And from that point on, other habits I adopted other habits that allowed me to be a different person, that allowed me to become somebody else, that allowed me to reclaim my life. And this is what I want for you. Because as I often say, you're only one decision away from changing your life for the better. The sooner you realize that being a victim is not really serving you, because you're not hurting anybody by being a victim, you're only hurting yourself. The sooner you realize that, the sooner you can start changing your life in a different direction. The sooner you're going to start adapting a different kind of habits. My pillar, or I believe we are holistic beings, and we have all the states that are connected, like physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, and creating habits in all those areas, habits that sustain you instead of drain you, would allow you then to unfold that victimhood and create something different for yourself. So in physical health, I invite you to start moving, because movement sends endorphins into your brain and into your system. And it allows you for other things to happen as well. You become more motivated when you move, as opposed to when you're sitting still. And there are many more that I'm going to share throughout the episodes. Another exercise you can try for victimhood is journaling. Journaling your thoughts out, not holding them into your head, but letting them out. Picking an activity, like an art activity, painting or singing. But biggest thing with being a victim is holding on to your negative emotions. So letting them go, allowing them to pass. We don't want them to be lodged in our body. We don't want to manifest the disease. We want to create something different for ourselves. Another thing you can do, you can reach out to me and I can help you, guide you to clear your negative emotions and limiting decisions. You can reach out at Irina@irinashehovtsov.com and see how I can help you. You can connect down below. I'm going to leave the links. But the biggest thing about being a victim, how you're going to stop being a victim, is realize that everything that happens in your life is a lesson, is an opportunity to learn something different about yourself and get something positive out. Like what had happened. If I look at my personal experience, the lessons that I needed to learn was speaking my truth. I haven't been speaking out. I have not been listening to the bells that were ringing in my head. I didn't want to quarrel. But it is understandable when two people come into a relationship and they come from different values and different perspectives. It is natural for them to not agree on certain things. And if something goes against your base beliefs and base values, you gotta speak up. You gotta say it. You cannot just be quiet about it. So that was my positive lesson that I needed to learn, is to speak how I'm feeling. And if something is going against my values, I gotta speak up that this is not the way. Because every time we are interacting with somebody, we are teaching them how we want to be treated. If we say nothing, the answer is always, that's fine, that's okay, that means it's not normal. So if you don't share how you're feeling, the other person is not gonna know. They're not mind readers. So you gotta speak up, you gotta advocate for yourselves. You gotta be your own cheerleader as well. So if you take anything from today's episode, sit down and jot down what are some of the positive lessons you are learning from your negative experience. Release your emotions. Find an activity, a tool, something that allows you to let go of those emotions. I used to play tennis and get all the anger out right there on the field, right? Or painting. Draw how you're feeling. Paint it. Speak, write it in the journal. Don't hold on to your negative emotions. Negative emotions are good, but they are acting as those warning bells that allow you then, okay, something is not feeling good. It means I gotta take a different decision. I'm gonna make a different choice. It's not meant to hold on to them and then hold them for dear life and be, the longer you hold them, you become this bitter person. Do you want to be this bitter person that nobody wants to hang around with? Because all you talk about, you're always complaining about how life is unfair. So be your own cheerleader, release those negative emotions, reach out. I can help you let go of negative emotions and limiting decisions. You can reach out and create a habit in your life that allows you to release those emotions. Some kind of a habit, some kind of a tool, just like brushing teeth for good oral health, create something so that you can let go of those emotions. Some kind of an art activity, singing, painting, something to let it all out. So that's it for today. Join me on the next episode. I'm going to be joined by Amanda Lindsay, and she's the creator of Happy from the Crappy. Join me in the next episode. And until then, stay well. Remember, you're only one decision away from changing your life, no matter what happens. It all is possible.